I foresee some more big acquisitions over the next year. I don't know who. I don't have any, no one has given me any tip.
Who? Give me names. Give me names.
Yeah. No, I'm not touching that.
Why should I tell you?
Maybe this will help.
I still don't think I should tell you.
Can you spot me at 20? How about now?
As we do every year, we look back on 2025 and look ahead to 2026. Some really smart folks will join us and look at the biggest acquisitions, the biggest trends, and what we see coming down the pipeline in the world of AV. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 750, 2025, the year in review. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the audiovisual news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Typically, I would say this is the news and information we have gathered for the week. But it's the last one of the year, first one of 26. So we're going to do what we've done for the last, I have no idea how many years, and that is take a look back at 2025 with me to talk about the very things. First and foremost, Steph Beckett from rAVe Pubs. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, thank you. Amala Reddie from Commercial Integrator. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, and it's always good to be back here, Tim.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, a young man from AV Magazine all the way over in the UK, Guy Campos. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Tim. I always love the young man comments. It's I wish they were true, but it's flattering. Thank you.
Brother, the older I get, the younger everybody else gets, so it's all relative. So we have folks on our marketing team that is exactly half as old as I am. So I have reached that point in my career. So there you go. All righty. This is how this is going to format work. I am going to ask these really smart, fine folks 2 big questions. So, Steph, we're going to start with you on this. What was the biggest story, the biggest trend, the biggest something to come out of the AV industry in 2025?
I don't know that there was one major story that really defines this past year for me, nor do I think it's one major trend, but I think it's a bunch of little ones kind of pushed together. I would say that if I had to describe it in one word, the biggest trend that I would say is convergence, because I know we've been hearing about this for a few years, but I do think that 2025 was the first year in which we were really starting to see how AV and broadcast were kind of starting to come together. AV and security are kind of coming together. AV and IT, we've been fighting about that one for years, but I have been seeing that one kind of come together a little bit more. Even AV and building management is another big one where I've been seeing these 2 industries kind of start to converge. And when I say that I've seen them start to converge, we're seeing a lot of companies buying other companies that are kind of in this area, right? Like what happened with QSC earlier this year. They were acquired. What was I can't remember the company's name though. What is that company?
Acuity.
Acuity, yes. So Acuity deals a lot in building management, right? And so they bought QSC, which is like, you're kind of thinking, why would they do that? Well, it makes a lot of sense because AV has a lot of information about how rooms work, but we don't necessarily use the information that we have about how rooms work to make them work better. That's all building management. So I think that that's been a big trend this year, and we're going to continue to see that next year, is us kind of starting to realize, hey, we should really do something with all this information that we have about the way that people actually use the rooms. And so we can use that information to change the temperature, check the CO2 levels, change the lighting. We can already change the lighting. We can already shut the blinds. We can already make the room come on when people walk in. So why aren't we using all of this information in one? And another good thing to kind of like clue us into this happening is the Logitech Spot coming out this year, which is kind of that little stick it on the wall product from Logitech that basically gives you a lot of this room information about environmental levels, temperature, CO2, health stuff. So I do think we're going to see more like traditional AV UC digital signage manufacturers start to come out with products like that. So that is where I will kind of start us off.
All right. Amala, same question. Is what were some of the biggest trends or some of the biggest stories to come out of this year?
Yeah, I actually agree a lot with Steph. Definitely the convergence of broadcast and AV and security. I mean, there's a reason why we have a combined magazine for the past 2 years now of commercial integrator and security sales and integration, because physical security and AV are just blurring the lines at this point. I'm actually working on an emergency notifications deep dive, and that's exploring both avenues. So I think it's really cool. And the other thing that Steph mentioned was the acquisitions. We have seen a lot of acquisitions in the past year. A lot of equity firms buying into the AV space, like 26 North acquiring AVISPL. So you can see that people are actually investing a lot in AV. I think AV is going to continue to become bigger, which is crazy when you think about how big it already is. But it's always still a bubble, which brings me to my next trend, hiring and retention. I think there's been a bit more focus on that. People are intentionally trying to bring in more people, because I think one of the things we talked about last year was there's lack of AV talent. And I think this year we're seeing a little bit more focus on that, just trying to get people back into the industry, grow the industry a bit more. And the last thing I'll mention is probably last year, AI was everywhere. But when I say everywhere, it was a little bit too much everywhere. Like nobody knew what to do with it. I think this year we're noticing a little bit more pullback, focus on specific AI targeted tools. I think that was one thing I saw at Infocom, is that they're trying to make AI more AV centric, if that even makes sense. How does it actually fit into the AV world? Where does it help the AV integrators, the manufacturers? So yeah, very excited to see what 2026 will bring.
Yeah, we will get to that in a second. I'll let each of you kind of give me your forecast. Guy, we'll have the last word. I'll wrap this one up. But what did you see as some of the biggest trends or biggest stories coming out of 2025?
Tim, thank you. I'm going to introduce a little bit of chaos into this broadcast now, because look, there are plenty of trends. AI and acquisitions are the big ones. Convergence is ongoing. But I have a question. My big question is, when you look at mainstream AV, and by that I mean projects in which you have a display or a projector in a classroom or a meeting room, that business that's been very big since COVID has just been in a lot of trouble in the UK and in Germany, to some extent in North America too. My question is, why are so many people that I know who are very energetic, very enthusiastic, very ambitious, why have they been subject to what you call layoffs at a time when we're told that the industry is growing? It was 6% a year, it's now 3.5% a year. And at a time when private investment companies are putting so much money, they are showing their confidence in the future. And yet, what we think of, or what some people think of as AV, has been a little bit in the doldrums. So that, I think, is the biggest puzzle for me. Is there a problem with our research or how it's interpreted? So when we say the industry is growing at 3.5% a year, are we not being specific enough that what we think of as core AV is not growing at 3.5% a year? It's these outside areas, maybe the areas of convergence that Steph has talked about, that are pulling this figure up. And so I'm puzzled by that. And this afternoon I've just made 3 phone calls about a distributor that's laying off a whole bunch of people in the UK that was formerly part of a group that also includes North America and other areas of Europe. And that's, the story that's had the most page views so far this year. So I'm sorry to bring it down, but there's a number of people who've been what we call made redundant, been out of work 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, had to try doing their own things. Some of them have ended up at great, really good companies. But there's a bit of turnover going on, and there's a bit of, I'm wondering whether what we think of as AV is this coherent one thing and that it's changing. So look, maybe there's growth in, say, esports in education in the Americas. Maybe there's growth in fine pixel pitch LED. Maybe there's growth in COB, LED of any pixel pitch. But some parts of the industry have not had a great time. And it's a hard story for us to tell, because you don't want to pick on any one big organisation and say, maybe the problem's with this company, because it's affected quite a few companies. So that's my ringing, cheerful question. I don't disagree with any of the trends. I think they're great. I just like to throw a little spanner in the works and provide a little bit of dark to go with the light in this area. Shade to go with the light.
I 100% agree there. And I do think it's good that you brought that up, Guy, because we have seen a ton of turnover, a ton of layoffs this year. I'm sure everyone who's got a LinkedIn on here has seen so many of the posts every single day of people talking about like, oh, like, you know, I was unfortunately laid off from my position. I'm open to work. Of course, I don't know that this is the answer to everything, but I'm going to blame a lot of this on the tariffs. Not that they've affected us a ton in actuality, but they have made everyone very scared of what could potentially happen. And so I think that some companies like tried to be proactive and get really, really lean. And because of that, I do think that they laid off a ton of their folks. I don't think that that's true at every organization, at every company, but I do think that that has a lot to do with the really, really high turnover that we have seen this year specifically, especially in the first 6 months of this year.
I actually am going to disagree with you a little bit on that, Steph. I think I'm not blaming this all on the tariffs, but the tariffs do have a part to do with that. And the reason for that is this, and I have said this since April, since I did this interview. I was on stage at a PSNI event back in April. I had 3 CEOs from throughout the industry on with me. And I asked them what they wanted, right? This happened right around the time the initial announcement was made about the tariffs here in the States. Without exception, all 3 of them said stability. I don't care what the tariff is. I don't care why the tariff is. Tell me what it's going to be and keep it the same, right? That is what they asked. These are, again, various companies. They made various different products. And what we have seen from the administration is not that, is not stability. So it is the uncertainty, it is the instability of those tariffs that has caused, at least in the AV industry, some of that uncertainty and a little bit of hand-wringing, and that can absolutely have an impact on people's financials as well as how they feel about the future going into 2026.
I agree. I think that you said that a lot better than I did. And I agree that when organizations get really scared and they're worried about their money in the future, the 2 first things they slash: marketing budget and people budget, because those are some of the 2 biggest pots of money right there. So I think that that's why the business has just changed in the past year.
Yeah, I'll just add that I know I mentioned hiring and retention as something that's happening in the AV industry with more intentionality. I also do agree that there's been a lot of turnover at the same time. I also think it ties back into the AI part of it, because again, so much was going on AI, and that also led to a lot of company restructuring because they were dropping other departments to focus on the AI departments. And I still think there's a lot to be done in that regard, because some companies are still not sure what the AI model technology is supposed to be or what the focus is going to be. So unfortunately, people become the consequence, which shouldn't be, because at the end of the day, the AV industry is about the people. Nobody would be where they are without the people behind all these technologies, behind all the business. So I'm hoping 2026 has a better outlook than the past 2 years.
I'll just add one thing. So I'll stay out of tariffs as a foreigner, but I will say there are other factors too. So the big question is, look, all this tech was put in post-COVID. When does the refresh cycle kick back in? It should have kicked in now, but people seem to be delaying things. And then the other thing is, like, even in Germany, there's peculiar things going on, like the education budgets, they're between budgets and things like that. So there are all kinds of confounding factors. Maybe the tariffs have a knock-on effect in, and again, this is a channel story, this isn't really an end-user story, but they have a knock-on effect in reducing the margins because there's such an oversupply of displays coming out of China or elsewhere and flooding into Europe. How you wonder how the suppliers are really going to make money. They've got to move towards services and not just resale of hardware.
Yeah. All right, I'll wrap up this segment with my own kind of what I saw out of this year. I was on, oh, good Lord, I was on with Steph probably in January. I made the comment, I said, I am afraid that we're going to walk into ISE and we're going to see AI slapped on everything from screens to racks, right? Just I think somebody called it AI washing. I did not see that at ISE. So a little bit of it at NAB, a little bit of it at Infocom, certainly did not see it at ISE. So there has been a little bit of AI washing throughout this year. I think you guys are right that will kind of shake out in 2026, and we'll get to kind of our forecast in a minute. Certainly acquisitions, right? And mergers, acquisitions. The AVI SPL one was huge. I think Amala's the one that said that the confidence that shows in the industry from equity, right? From people who their business is making money, right? So if they're confident in it, well, guess what? The rest of us should at least, have some sort of confidence. But the Kinley Yorktel one really kind of got me. Yeah, that one was interesting for a whole lot of reasons, because you got two SENs not on here, but two of the SEN top 50s combining like that. And then you've got the BIAMP purchasing the intellectual property of Clear One. Yes?
No, I was just agreeing. I was just like, yep.
And then the last thing is, and this is AI. This is also a little bit what Steph was talking about with the sensors and stuff like that. AV is not unique in the fact that we have a whole lot of data. We still don't know what the freak to do with it. So that is 100% one of the things coming out of this year is that we got to figure out what to do with it. I think Sean Wargo is and him coming and spinning up on his own. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch. Again, we'll get to kind of forecast in a second. But those are my three big ones, right? You've got AI, you've got the continuing acquisitions, and then you've got data. All right, Steph, the more dangerous question is, what are we going to see in 26? Like, what is the one or two themes in 26?
I can tell you what I hope that we're going to see. I do hope that we're going to see the industry stabilize a little bit, because like we all mentioned, we've been in a really shaky area the past 2 years, but in particularly the past year in terms of, layoffs, people figuring out exactly how many staff that they need to get things done. And I will agree with Amala, who said that AI has a lot of the reason behind some of the layoffs here, which kind of agree. People are putting a lot of money into that. If they put a lot of money into that, they can't put that same money into something else. So I do hope that that's going to kind of calm down a little bit. And I think that we are already seeing more intentional AI usage in products. But of course, I think that we're still going to see some AI washing over the next year, just perhaps not as much as we've been seeing at a few of the shows that you and I mentioned, seeing it kind of everywhere, Tim. But what I hope to see is more industry growth, more convergence, because I do see that is being a really positive sign for our industry, as partnering with others that kind of want to learn from the way that AV sends signals. And I think that the AV industry has a lot to teach. Security has a lot to teach IT, and IT has a lot to teach us. And as well as broadcast in terms of like the way that we're sending information. So I hope to see a lot of that in the next year. I don't think it's going to kind of take off like that, though. I do think it's going to be kind of like some slow things here and there. I foresee some more big acquisitions over the next year. I don't know who. I don't have any, no one has given me any tip.
Who? Give me names. Give me names.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching that. No. So but I do think that we will see probably at least 3 in the next year if we have not look very similar to this year. And there are going to be some weird ones, I think. It's going to be some other equity firms buying out big companies that we know, big manufacturers maybe buying out a few smaller ones, but in areas that they don't currently specialize, I think we'll see. And we'll see some more of this like convergence, maybe a broadcast company buying out a traditional AV manufacturer, or someone who is in building management buying out another AV audio company or something like that. So I think that we'll see a couple of that this year. And I think that the meeting room is still going to be a freaking mess over the next year. Like, no one really knows what's going on in the meeting room right now. Like Guy mentioned, the refresh times, like it's about time that we're supposed to start seeing people refresh a lot of these rooms, and we're just kind of not seeing that. Nope. And if they are, they're not putting a ton of technology in it, because I think the vibe right now is very much like flexible rooms. But like, what does that mean? What does a flexible room need? Does it every room is special because everyone uses it differently. So what does that mean for technology? It's just going to be kind of a mess. Like, we're not going to know what's going on in the meeting room. So I think we're going to see 50,000 new meeting room solutions come out, from new ceiling tile mics to probably 50 more video bars to, yeah, I know, shocker, big shocker. To just like other products that are basically going to be manufacturers trying to answer the question of what does a flexible room mean and what does it need?
All right, Amala?
Well, again, just going off of what Steph has said, definitely broadcast and AV. I think last 2 years we kept hearing AV over IP. I think now we've established AV over IP is mainstream. So we're pivoting to broadcast and AV. I think that will be a big thing in 2026. It might even become the buzzword over AI. But don't take my word for it. I never know where and what people like to latch on. But I also think, like, with the meeting room, I think it's all about the immersive experiences, like with the whole trying to get people back to office, which is a whole other conversation on its own. But companies are trying to make it like a more personalized experience. And I think we're going to see some trajectory in that direction. But like Steph said, it's going to be a mess too. There's going to be too many things happening trying to make it personalized. But hopefully we can get on a track where it's actually immersive. It's an economy that will keep growing. And the other thing I would really like to see is focus again on hiring people. I think there are a lot of good resources out there that actually can help companies do intentional hiring, maybe have less turnovers and have that stability, as Steph said. So yeah, I'm excited to see what 2026 will bring. And I'm sure there will be something that will come out of nowhere and will take us all for a spin.
I hope so. That is one of the things that I love about this industry, is that it constantly surprises me. Mr. Campos, you have the floor, sir. What are we going to see in 26? What's going to be one or two themes?
I say I have zero idea about this at all. I have no confidence in my ability to predict the future. Now, I'll tell you what I would like to see, and it's got nothing to do with AV, it's a slight tangent. So I would like to see the AI bubble burst sooner rather than later. So let's distinguish two things. The valuation of specialist AI tech companies, generative LLM-based companies, and the usefulness of the AV technology that is based upon them. So what we're seeing is, a dose of tulip mania, in which these companies are all investing in each other, and their valuation is based on buying from each other. The longer that goes on, the worse the come down is going to be. The sooner the bubble bursts, the better. What's unclear is what effect that will have on the AV industry. So it's really interesting for me listening to my better informed colleagues telling me that they've been thinking quite carefully about AI washing and seeing signs of some kind of more common sense coming in. We just ran a piece by, Richard Yonker of Netgear, in which he's saying there's actually quite a lot of companies that are putting these fancy AI features that don't do very much except justify higher prices. But there are tremendously useful things AI is doing in things I personally find a bit dull, like preventive maintenance, which is very, very useful. Not the most glamorous or exciting things. I remember going to Infocom, going to an AI pre-conference there with Next. There was a speaker from Elmo AV, I think Karen Castagno, talking about using AI to revitalize dormant accounts. Did an interview at the beginning of the year, say with Craig Dirt, who's the analyst. He's saying, look, boring AI is where it's at. A lot of the projects are extremely dull. A lot of the projects that are actually working are so dull. That's one of the reasons why they're not getting all the attention. Whereas a lot of the very, very exciting stuff that's inflating the valuation of these huge AI companies it's going to be very difficult for people to recover the costs of all the data centers with payments for the more glamorous stuff. So I think eventually we're going to see some common sense come into this. And I'm reminded again of a conversation I had with an AV consultant who, like me, was around at the time when the internet bubble burst. And when going back to then, the internet companies that were big when the internet bubble burst are not the ones that are still around 25 years later. It's all changed, and I think we will see that with AI. We're only seeing the start of it. I'll give you, again, this is outside technology, but the peak year for consumer magazine sales in the UK was 2005, which was 10 years after the start of the internet technology, 10 years after I was playing around with CompuServe on, just getting before graphical user interfaces, just playing around with downloading text over a dial-up modem. And so I think we haven't begun to see what AI will do, and we will only begin to see what's really possible once the crash comes and once the wheat is sorted from the chaff. So that's my prediction, not necessarily for this year, but certainly for the next year or two.
Well, I am actually going to follow along in Guy's somewhat pessimistic wake. I honestly think there's two things I'm going to see out of 2026. Number one, I think it's going to be soft from a financial standpoint. We have talked about return to office and the uncertainty with that, and what that means for our industry means that nobody's upgrading their systems, right? Whether that's the refresh cycles are off or what have you. There is not a consensus, at least from a Fortune 500 standpoint. So I see it being slightly soft. I don't know nothing. I'm just looking at some of the tea leaves here. But the odd thing is, where I don't see it soft, is if you have something, if you work at Microsoft, you're going to be fine. And here's the reason why. I think 2026 is going to be the year we're going to look back and go, that was the year of MDEP, right? That was the year that Microsoft kind of said, this is it. If you're not in MDEP, you're out, as far as Teams rooms goes. I think this time next year, we'll be sitting here and I'll have these three fantastic folks back on. And that's what we're going to look at and go, this was the year that Microsoft said it's MDEP or nothing, right? And I could, again, totally be wrong. Don't know nothing. I almost said I don't know anybody in Microsoft. I know a couple of people in Microsoft, but they haven't told me anything. Just looking at what they're doing and how they're positioning that standard. So that is me. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you for the time. Steph Beckett, how do people connect with you? How do they connect with rAVe? How do they connect with AV Buyers Club? And how do they follow you as you head to Barcelona?
Okay, a lot of questions. So first of all, you can read rAVe Pubs at ravepubs.com. We are also on virtually every social media, but probably what most people like is our YouTube, because that is where we put all of the product videos from all of the shows we cover, including the ones from ISE. I'm also putting all of our ISE pre-show stories on our microsite, which is live, so you can go to ravepubs.com/ISE. And then I'm also on virtually every social media, but probably the two relevant are X and LinkedIn. So you can find me on there if you care to see what I have to say.
All righty. Amala, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you with Commercial Integrator and follow along as you guys also head to ISE?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn and on my email. You can probably find my email on my LinkedIn, and you can connect with Commercial Integrator on commercialintegrator.com. And we are also on every social media channel, but probably most active on LinkedIn. And that's where you'll also find all the updates related to ISC. We will also have an ISC spotlight on our website, so make sure to check that out in January and all the way through February. Thank you for having me, Tim.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Mr. Campos, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you, with AV Magazine, and follow your adventures as you also head to ISE?
So you can find AV Magazine via our website, which is www.avinteractive.com. I'll be at ISE for 7 days this year. It's gone up from 4 to 5 to 7, and I'm looking to make it 2 weeks. So if anyone has any pre or post parties or invitations, try and send them my way, and happy to meet everyone in person. That's the big project, as well as online.
All right. There is a bike race from Valencia up to Barcelona, if that's your thing, Guy. Pre ISE.
I once had to be carried down a mountain, Tim. So I'm completely up for it, but I don't want to put anyone to the trouble.
All right. No, I have a dear friend, Toby Tungle, who is going to be taking part in that bike race from Valencia to.
Of course he is.
Of course he is.
Show off. And we're going to hear all about it on LinkedIn. I just know it.
There will be pictures everywhere. Yes.
If you want to learn about marketing, go to Toby. That guy is forever.
Speaking of marketing, what I will encourage you to do is pay attention to the outfit that he'll be wearing. That is all I am at liberty to say.
It's going to be pink. It's going to be pink. That's all.
I didn't say it. You did. Okay. All right. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me on any of the socials, but go by our website, avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. We are also going to Barcelona for ISE, so you can check out our coverage there. If you want to read things that I write about that have nothing to do with technology, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But yeah, go by the website, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for a fantastic 2025. And here's to a fantastic 2026. So that is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on avnation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.